Welcome, everyone, to the Wise Women Forward podcast. And today we have a wonderful guest, Colleen Kochannek. And if you don't mind, I'm going to read exactly who she is so I get the wording exactly right. She's a corporate refugee turned reinvention strategist for women over 50, ready to claim their third act as their power season. As a founder of the Third Act Lab, she helps women design a life and income on their own terms. Through practical frameworks, candid truth-telling, and smart use of AI, Colleen guides women to rediscover who they are now and turn lived experience into creative income-generating projects.
Welcome.
That's so great.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's all about what we're about, that this third act or fourth phase of life is so vital and so necessary. Tell me, how did you come to this?
Yeah, so I came to it. Actually, I've been so surprised by this third act. And I think, just for context, I was widowed at 50. A lot of dominoes fell, was laid off from a career, lost my only sibling, just loss after loss. So it's fast forward 8 years. I've had so much time to reflect and think and process and all of these things. And I've been living on my own for the first time in, mostly my life. After college, after college, I had the big, grown up apartment a mile from my family. So it was, it wasn't like I was out, wild on my own. And then I met the man who became my husband, et cetera. But I've come to this third act very surprised because I grew up like most women. We're told getting older is awful. It's a crime against humanity. God forbid you get a wrinkle, like you become useless to everybody. And the older I got, I'm like, wait a minute, I'm feeling pretty damn good. Like we were really duped. And I started thinking about that a lot. And so that's kind of what brought me to this whole idea of really looking at this third act, how it's really our power season. And it's surprising because we've been told our whole lives that it's not. We're told that it's the end. We're told that it's the end. And I'm like, no, this is, I call it my first life now. This third act is my first life.
One
That's
of the
amazing.
things that we go into in the movie is the contrast between when a woman is cycling and when she's not. Do you feel a clarity, a difference, and do you look back on cycling as kind of, as Margaret Cho says, the crazy time?
Yeah, well, what's interesting? I went through menopause early. I went through menopause like in my early 40s, which is normal, but it's young normal. And I remember just all of a sudden I would wake up every day and the first thought I'd have is, what about me? What about me? Where am I in this life? Where am I in this situation? And then having this realization of, oh, wait a minute, I built this. I chose this. I was all in on this. I was here for it. And it was almost like the decycling that kind of woke me up, I would say, if that makes sense. Because I've been so shocked looking back, hindsight is 2020, right? It's always perfect vision. I look back and I'm like, what was I thinking? What was I doing? How could I not see it? But you're in it. And so you don't see it. So that was more of my crazy time. Like Margaret Cho's crazy time was when uncycling.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so fascinating to me because, as a man, I look at what you guys go through and I'm so in awe of it. It's really, and I've expressed lots of gratitude. When my daughter talks about, she's younger and she has a wicked bad migraine, I'm like, thank you for doing that because that's the only way we ever get to have the idea of even getting children, right? So, but you guys, in my opinion, have so much grace to you that you're just willing to deal with it. It's just amazing to me. So thank you for that.
In truth, he's in awe when he's not a little terrified. Because as I started going into menopause, our daughter started going into menostart. So
Yeah.
he basically had two crazy women who he wasn't sure who they were going to be on any given day.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And he turned it into creative art into our movie. So thank goodness.
Yeah. Yeah.
What area of the US are you in?
I'm in the Midwest. I'm in St. Louis. But my late husband and I lived in Florida for 23 years, but I was born and raised here in Missouri. So, smack dab in the middle.
Yep.
Yeah.
And how do you see like places both like, the Southeast or Florida is kind of its own place and St. Louis, being a woman and getting older, what were the main messages that you were getting?
I mean, I grew up in typical traditional suburbia, white bread, I always say like, Wonder Bread, white bread couldn't be any whiter where I grew up, the white privilege, all of that. It was just, I was born, I was given a script that I didn't realize I was given, like we all were. And I followed the script to a T. I did everything I was supposed to. I was such a good girl. And the goal was to get married. Of course, that was a status thing. And then you started acquiring things. You get the house, you get the job, you get the car, you get the bigger house, the big. It was very much that without much consideration for me, like as an individual. It was very much scripted in a way. I didn't know that at the like when you're in it, you don't see it. But I really, looking back, I feel like, and this is probably true for many women, we're not encouraged to self actualize or individuate, right? We're encouraged to learn how to serve and learn how to gain status in this patriarchy, right? We're about winning the game, which by the way is not winnable. As a woman, you can't win the patriarchy game because they move the goalpost all the time. But we're there. Our goal is to be acceptable and accepted by this patriarchy. Like we have to win a prize. And I was very much raised in that and went for it. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't know I was supposed to do anything else, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah. So then when you took a look at yourself, what did you see that you wanted that you hadn't been going for?
Oh gosh. I mean, probably a lot of things. Like I grew up in a household that was more practical. Like I was more of a creative type person, but our people don't do that. Like you're not going to be a starving artist. So, I went to business school and, which I had a wonderful career. I'm not again, that, but I was not, that wasn't like, there was very much like our people don't do that. And so these are the rules. These are the parameters you can pick, door one, two, or three, but you got to pick one of those doors. So I think more of it now is I feel like I'm just discovering now who I am because I didn't really even pay attention before, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
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 So with the people that you work with, how do you shake them up? How do you move them away from that box that they built for themselves or that gaslighting that they veiled themselves with?
Yeah. I think probably the way I've discovered I do it most, I have gotten very comfortable saying shit out loud. Am I allowed to cuss here?
Yeah, it's
Yes.
fine.
Yes, please.
I have
Wise
gotten
women,
very
hey,
yeah.
notice to everybody, wise women use foul language
Yes.
Oh,
to the
Yes, we
betterment
do.
of
yes.
all of us.
Yes.
So,
A lot of foul language. I think I've just gotten very comfortable saying, I call them the 3 a.m. thoughts out loud that many people aren't comfortable saying. Or I also say, my current context, I'm, widowed, I'm single, I live on my own, I'm child free by choice, I have no family left, so I don't have, like, I'm flying solo, I have no family dynamics that I'm working in either. Like I'm not insulting anybody or having to deal with, Uncle Joe at the Thanksgiving table kind of thing. So I can say really what is on my mind without. And so I think I engage with women that way. They see themselves that like I'm able to say, obviously everybody's different, but I think I say things out loud that they're thinking.
Mm.
awesome.
Yeah.
Is that what, like, we they came across you on social media and your voice is exactly that.
Yeah.
What we need to know you're going to say. How did that whole thing come about for you?
It's really been a process. So, my process these last 8 years, I call it the, 8 year shit show where my life fell apart, the universe flipped it upside down. And in the process of that, the silver lining of that was, you get to a place with a lot of grief and loss. And then the universe is like, well, while she's down, let's bring up her childhood too. Like, because I came from a very abusive background and childhood that I had neatly swept under the rug. And so the universe is like, well, this is be a good time. This would be a good time to bring it all apart. So I was able to get into really deep therapy, hardcore trauma therapy, and you just start seeing things like, what the fuck? Like it's like so shocking at one time, but I'm like, the silver lining now is I can't unsee it. The genie's out of the bottle. I have to deal with it. And so that's a good thing. But it made me very comfortable just speaking my truth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one of the things that we often feel is to not fear the catharsis. And it
Mm.
feels like it was all given to you kind of all at once or,
Yeah.
in short order. And you went, okay, I got to get through it. So let's
Yeah.
see what happens.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. And with that, I'll say, people are like, "Oh, you're so inspirational now." I'm like, "You didn't see me in the dark years, the dark night of the soul years. This was not just like, here I am, Miss Lollipop and Pollyanna all of a sudden. There were some dark times. It's any catharsis like this is rough going through. I think coming into this third act for any woman is a huge transformation because you do wake up to a lot. And you're not expecting it to really flip you upside down. Mine was just like added bonus on top.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
A
More stuff. Yeah.
a therapist sort of coached me on the notion of catharsis, which is that if you fear the cathartic moment and because you don't think you'll get through it, then you're really trapped in it. But pretty much we always, when we allow for the cathartic moment, we will make it through because just your version of allowing the catharsis to happen shows that you're ready to transition out of it. And so it's one
Yeah.
of these things that it's such a daunting notion to sort of say, okay, I'm going to be okay with that version of catharsis, but you're really pretty much all the time going to make it through that. And
Yeah.
you're living proof of that. And both Dominique and I, we have our own sort of traumas that we've been through, and it's like one of the things that you get to a place where you're sort of saying what people are representing to you. You're like, oh, when I was there, this is how I dealt with that,
Yeah.
and there's a
Yeah.
real possibility of effectiveness because of that. And
Yeah.
so tell us a little bit more about the work that you do on every day. You coach people, you have this, you move people forward. What is it? What is you sort of do every day?
Yeah. So every day I work with women. I have a membership community and we work to three things we do. Who the hell are you now? Literally. What do you want for this third act? And how are you going to build it? And we work in I everything I do is very micro. I've learned that in therapy. We can dream way too big. Like we overwhelm ourselves and you just stop. You get in this analysis paralysis, so you don't do anything. So I'm very much about micro decisions, micro moves, I call micro experiments. But I start all of my people. I developed like a personal inventory system. It's almost like a grocery list, and it came out of I was literally sitting there one day like, how can I be 55 years old at the time and not know who the hell I am? Like, how is this possible to not know yourself? And so I come from kind of a marketing and data background. I'm not a data person, but data. I'm like, I need evidence. Who am I? And I just started making these lists of myself, like a grocery list, naming everything I know about myself, everything I like to do, everything I'm good at. Like it just went on and on. There was no rhyme or reason to it. And I called it the Big Book of Me in my Google Drive. And then one day I was like, wait a minute. I wonder what AI would say. I wonder what ChatGPT would say about this. So I took my list and I put it in ChatGPT and like, what do you think? What have I done here? And it came back like you've categorized your life in these four areas, blah, blah, blah. Here are patterns, here are themes that we see. And some of them were surprising. Like I hadn't seen that in myself really. Uh, so that was really helpful. Then I just started playing with it like, well, what if we started mashing things up like this part of me and this part of me? What could that look like in my life? And so it grew from that. So when I work with women, they do this inventory system first. We play with AI, and it's really about getting to know, I'm like, it's called evidence based, get to know yourself, because we lie to ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we lie to ourselves. And what's interesting is when they go through this inventory system, the first time around, it's the obvious stuff. Like, oh, I'm really good at this. I'm an accountant. I'm a filmmaker. Like, it's the obvious stuff. The more you go through it, all of a sudden they get to this point that I get to, there's resistance. Oh, I can't write that down because then it's real. If I write that down, like it makes it real to the universe. I become like responsible to it. So you figure out where these resistance points are. I'm like, write it down, write it down. And then we just start playing with, hey, what if you put this and this together? But the real work comes from they get these ideas that really get them excited, like, oh my gosh, what if I could do that? And then you have this, oh, but that's not who I am. My people don't do that.
Mm.
And so there's this resistance of like undoing. I say it's more unlearning and deconditioning than it is more learning and conditioning, to be honest, is we get really trapped.
That's awesome. You really, you shake the belief system up, and
Yeah.
it's amazing. We were actually watching a documentary last night or the night before, and it's about a famous abduction of this young girl, and it went through it. But what was amazing to me is there was a moment where she could have spoken up and gotten found earlier than she actually did. But I could tell the way that it was being described that her being taught to be nice, be quiet, stay in her box, her entire childhood before that
Mm.
had her not speak up at a moment where she really could have, right? And I feel like a lot of us have that, kind of, this is me,
Yeah.
and we need to get it completely shaken up. And I love the way that you do that by bringing it all outside and then having somebody and something else analyze it, spit it back out to you and go, wow,
Yeah, it's
this
Yeah.
is who I can be.
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
little sneaky at the same
Yeah.
time, but people
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
fully aware that they're going to be hornswoggled, we call it,
Yeah.
right? It's like, oh
Yeah.
man, oh crap. It's not dissimilar to what Dominique and I do to each other every day, where we're like, okay, we have this idea to really fortify the notion of how we evolved because of wise women. And, we don't have any resources, and the patriarchy business and Hollywood, they don't really want to hear about this, right? Because
Yeah.
they're right. And
Yeah.
so we're like, how do we do this? And I'm sure that you're maybe even getting some of the changes in social media right now that, it's like you say the word patriarchy, they're like, oh, that's a political system. Literally,
Yeah.
it calls
Yeah.
patriarchy a political system, right?
Yeah.
So we're like every day we're like saying, how do we sneak into this system? How do we find out whatever our own version of our no thought, right? That's stopping us from allowing the yes thought in there as to where we go. And that's the sort of habits that we build, and I think women, from my perspective anyway, women in general are so gracious. You guys are, it's like there's so much flexibility. And what the bully patriarchy does, from what I notice, is it takes flexibility and it takes it for their own value. And one of the things, there's in Central Park, there's the two iron bridges that still exist in the United States. Now, iron bridges were more common in the late 1800s because that we had good capability to make them, but they just basically kept breaking and falling down because iron is too brittle. So you actually have to build a bridge to work with flexibility. Well, that's what culture and society and what the feminine does, is nature has flexibility in it. And if you built it as an iron bridge, it would just break. And
Yeah.
so you guys, from my perspective, have just spent a long time being that flexibility, and the patriarchy is now going to break that. So now it's time
Yeah.
for wise women to rise and to take us to what's next. What is next?
Well, let me ask you this. So, if I tell you, as we show in the movie, that it was the postmenopausal women in our ancestor groups that organized the society, were the architects of society, and therefore leaders of those early societies, and that helped us grow our brains. So basically, the older women of the tribe helped us become the Homo sapiens that we are. And we were exalted and lived as a matriarchy up until about 10,000 years ago. How does that feed or shift what you do, that information?
I think every woman knows that. I think every woman knows that we are incredibly capable leaders and wise and whatnot. But to what you were saying, we've been forced to be flexible, adapt, do more to have less, all these things. And now the patriarchy is a little mad because we have, excelled incredibly. We're women own more homes. We're doing, all those things. But I think we know it. I think the interesting thing now too is we have, statistically this massive longevity now where like, our my grandmother, I remember visiting my grandparents like when as a little child, which I'm sure skews my memory, but visiting them like in a nursing home and they were frail and I think they were like maybe in their late 60s or early 70s, like they were young. And so we're not aging like we used to. So I think the rise of the, aging woman is just getting more and more because we're not dying. Like and we're living really well. And so I think they're like, in my world, what I see very interesting is so many older women who maybe they're divorced or widowed and they choose to not partner up again. I'm like, I have zero interest. Like, I'll never marry again. I don't have any interest in dating right now. And what's really interesting is men come at me, oh, you're a man hater. You're a man hater. I'm like, no, you're not even crossing my mind. Like, I'm just living my life. So I think, I don't know, I feel like women have always known the role of leadership and wisdom and it was taken from us in a sense, but we also have that that feminine essence that we learn to work around it.
Yeah.
uh, and I think we're just not really willing to work around it as much more. I think we see so much friction now in the world with women's rights and all these things. It's like the men are mad as hell and the women are like, you made us do this, like you put us here kind of thing. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but I feel like we've always known it, which I also feel like is like I look at my personal self, like when I look back on my life and I kick myself, it's like on a level I knew I was tolerating, but I still played the game. And so there's that. I say you have to have, I think women, I call it the kick yourself moment. You have the kick yourself moment where you look back and you're like, oh shit, I did that. I built it. I chose it. I did that. And a lot of women get stuck in that. I coulda, woulda, shoulda. They get kind of stuck in that. I should have known better. I'm like, have your kick yourself moment and move forward and, differently. That's all
Yeah.
you can do.
Yeah. What's interesting? So we're parents of a girl and watching her grow up, and I have brothers and I've watched them raise boys. And what was amazing is our daughter is really strong, like, just absolute, like, force of nature if she doesn't want to do something. However, there's still always a desire for permission, right? Even though she like fought against any possible, what's the, when you have to come home, the time to come home,
Curfew.
any kind of curfew. When she turned 18 and she no longer had curfew, it took her a solid month and a half to keep asking us, are you sure I don't have a curfew? It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's what we said,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what I'm realizing is I need to keep giving myself permission, and that's what I want our film to do for women, and what I think your work does for women is to give them permission to listen to that inner
Yeah.
voice that was always there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope so. I feel like when I look back, I feel like when women, certainly my generation, I'm 58 now, I was born in 1967. When we're born, I say you're given an invisible judge, a little monitor that monitors you 24/7 to make sure you're doing it right. And that's how, little girls are raised. Are you doing it right for whatever your, community system, cultural system, whatever? Are you doing it right? So you grow up with this performance kind of life. Am I doing it right? And permission. May I, mother, may I do this to do it right? And so undoing that takes a lot to really listen to yourself, to not need permission, to not. And we see the friction, women who stop dyeing their hair and, all these things. And I'm like, whatever you do, you're going to get pushback. Whatever you decide to do, you'll get pushback. But we're very permission and performance based. I mean, on a level, I think.
Yeah.
So now
Yeah.
that you're really like, again, your voice is wonderful, it's strong, it's clear, it's poignant. Um, have there been surprises along the way for you to make during this transition that you're sort of like, oh, I didn't think that this would come about? Is there something that happened for you now that you're having this much more
Yeah.
um, grounded voice?
Yeah. I mean, probably a million things. Like my latest thing, I'm getting ready. I've just made a huge decision. I'm going nomadic for a year. I'm putting everything in storage and just going off into the wild blue yonder for a year. It's more about, I think, things I never would have even given myself permission to think about or do. They wouldn't have been possibilities because somebody else was always more important, like their preferences, their needs were always more important. So now it's taken me several years, but it's like, oh, I can do whatever the hell I want. Like uh, in unusual way. I'm so surprised by women I talk to, and this is not like male bashing, but there was like a woman on, I do a live video every morning on social media, and we were talking about being, widows and whatnot. And she said, I'm almost embarrassed to say this, but it took me like 6 months after my husband died to remember I preferred a different flavor pie. And I'm like, that's it right there. That's it right there. We have like subjugated ourselves for so long. You stop thinking about it. I don't know. So surprising things. It's just, I don't know. I adore living on my own now. And it's the first time in my life. Somebody described it as I live unwitnessed. So I can literally sing in the shower, like act a fool, and nobody sees it. Nobody sees me being lazy on a Sunday, not doing anything and questioning, what are you doing kind of thing. So I think I'm just learning more about myself now, like living on my own. So it's been one big surprise, to be honest. Yeah.
You
Amazing.
made me think about, so as a man, right? I'm the person who helped her through her menopause. I directed the movie that can revolutionize our understanding of human evolution according to women's roles. So I don't see myself as a typical male. But I also have to say, like, the patriarchy, for somebody like me, I want to be in service. I want to listen and then do things that are effective with that listening. The patriarchy is really horrendous for the way our brains work. Because what it does is it demands that you make these, like, there's certain decisions that are really easy, like what am I going to eat for dinner tonight? I like do that
Yeah.
snap, right? I'm going to do, as long as I can have what I want and what nobody, and there's no complication like I have to do gluten free or something, right? So that immediately goes south if it's like somebody else, right? So if I'm
Yeah.
making myself dinner, I'm like immediate to that. But then, like, when what happens for, I think, men, and they're not conscious of it, and I hope to be able to bring men along this pathway, is that we get overwhelmed so easily. And because we have a limited range with our emotions and sort of consideration, that overwhelm will either be we're going to recede and disappear, or we're going to get angry and push back. And we're
Yeah.
very binary with what we do about it. And what I've noticed with a lot of my male friends is that that's the way their lives go south because they're either retreating or pushing. We were not designed to be the ultimate leader. There's nothing in nature that has us be that, but yet we're stuck into that role and patterned to be that from our earliest notions, right? And
Yeah.
so it's sort of like, there are a group of men that have come to me and talked to me. We want to be heard, we want to listen, and we want to do stuff. And patriarchy is shitty for us as well, right? So I just
Yeah.
wanted to
Oh,
offer
yeah.
that thought that I like it. But you mentioned about women getting divorced, and there's a lawyer in the movie who did a study about gray divorce, right? And so 60% of divorces in England are at the time of perimenopause and menopause. And she said basically most of them are because of the husband's bad behavior, right?
Yeah.
And it's like
Yeah.
you think about the timing for that because yeah, you're less pliable because you have less estrogen in cycling and you're more standing on what you're doing. And we are more,
And more speaking your mind.
yeah, and
Yeah.
we are more struggling with the idea that we don't really have it together. And so those two
Yeah.
things bump into each other.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm so grateful to have the relationship I have with Dominique because she is supportive of my limitations as my consideration. Like if she says, let's make plan to do something with these people and it's going to involve this restaurant and driving to it. And she sees me glaze over. She's like, oh, okay, I've exceeded your capacity.
Yeah.
Um,
Take a
Yeah.
breath,
yeah.
and I'm going to
Yeah.
give it to you in small bites, and
Yeah.
then you're going to be,
Yeah.
and he on paper is way more intelligent than me in
No,
terms
I don't
of
think so.
IQ. No,
Well, maybe
IQ.
maybe a
Right.
patriarchal number, but not
Yeah,
not
exactly.
social
In a
intelligence for
patriarchal
sure.
number, but when it comes down to it,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
there's like capacity issues in certain
Yeah.
cases.
Well, I've talked a lot about how, clearly the patriarchy is shitty for everybody involved. I'm like, the patriarchy is the equivalent of every child gets a trophy. You were born a man, guess what? You get a trophy just because, whereas women have to earn the trophy every single day. And I think another challenge with the patriarchy is men, you said it, Christopher, men are allowed two emotions, anger or nothing. Like that's it. Because as soon as you start expressing joy or creativity, oh, he must be gay, which could be the worst thing in the whole world is a man be, feminine deemed
Yeah.
emotions. And so from birth, men aren't allowed, boys don't cry, all of that. And then of course you're expected to be the leader just because you were born with the right equipment. And not everybody wants that. And so it doesn't do anybody good, the patriarchy, I will say that. And I think from a women's perspective, I think one of the challenges is like, when you run out of capacity, is we've always had to have capacity. Oh, she can multitask. Like I used to joke, if we were traveling like something, I would get up, I'd feed the dogs, I'd get the dog sitter, I would pack the suitcase, I'd clean the house, I did it, and my husband would shower and want, and I'm like, and that's not, it's just we're all
Sorry.
from birth do 100 things at once. You have to be efficient. And so you do, which is not great for us either, but there is that. And then the challenge becomes, I think later in life is like with these men, bad behavior, perimenopause, divorce, you get tired of being a mother to a child. It's almost like childlike capacity in terms of doing, and they talk about a lot of the emotional labor and that type of thing we hear about, and I think we just get tired of it. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, yes to everything you
Call
said. Yeah.
we
I
call
agree.
this Substack Wise Women Forward. And it's because the patriarchy really does a good job at stagnating us and or having us look backwards at the horror show that just happened a minute ago, 10 minutes ago, an hour ago,
Yeah.
weeks ago. When you consider the notion of forward, what kind of things pop into your mind? Like where are we heading? What is the possibility?
From my perspective, working with women who I'm teaching them like that this third act is their first life, to me, forward is, building a world of older women who are just doing their own fucking thing, like, and happy for it. Like, not, I think that's going to be a long time coming because, the patriarchy, we're still steeped in it. But I see it often, women starting businesses, graduating law school at 67 and starting their own practice. Like the rules are quickly falling away. And I think with social media and media like Substack and movies and internet, we can share these stories. It's happening much faster than it did, 40 years ago when we weren't sharing stories and normalizing, you know, talking like this. But I also see we have a ways to go. Like I say what I think, which attracts people, but not everybody, like they let me say it kind of thing. So I think there's, which is great. I'm happy to, but I think that is the way forward is women, I don't want to say standing on their own 2 feet, but self actualizing first and then And so I think for older women, that just takes longer because we have a lot of deconditioning to do. You see a lot of younger women having these like your daughter having these conversations much younger. I
Yeah.
mean, so it's I think that's the way forward. Yeah,
Well, I, for
that's
one,
awesome.
really am looking forward to those times and so grateful to know great women like you and my wife that are right on the cutting edge of that. So thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for being on our podcast today, Colleen.
Before we
Oh
leave,
my
is there
gosh.
anything that you want to add that we didn't talk about or that we missed?
I don't think so. I love this conversation. I love this conversation. I wish it were wider and broader. Sometimes I feel like I have a little bit of a bubble mentality because I am on social media so much and the conversation happens there. And then in real life, it's not, in real life, like friends in your community and whatnot. So I wish, we just need to keep talking about it and making it a broader and broader topic for sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well,
Awesome.
thank you, Colleen. Thank you for the people listening to this podcast. There's more, and keep looking out for our next one. So we'll see you all soon. Thanks.